Welcome to the news on Grts. In the headlines tonight, President Jammeh urges the youth of the West Coast region to acquire crucial vocational skills and rise to the challenge of nation building. Movers and shakers in the education sector turn the spotlight on the education policy document 2004-2015 with a view to ensuring the attainment of the education-related MDGs by 2015. Conservationists and marine biologists from across West Africa descend on Dakar, Senegal to protect the fast disappearing shark from extinction. And authorities in Senegal release from custody the rapper Omar Touré, alias Chat, who is a vocal critic of President Wade's third-term bid. These stories and much more coming ahead in the news. I am Isaac Dabo. Thanks for joining us. The President has been addressing meetings in the West Coast region in continuation of his annual dialogue with the People Tour. Sheikh Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Jammeh used his presence in the region to urge young people there to acquire vocational skills and power the Gambia's transformation. Abdul Jai reports on the Sibanor and Birkama meetings.
There is no let-up in the fanfare that trailed the President throughout the country. The return to Banjul was of course spectacular, but the President's entry into Birkama on Tuesday was not too isolated in view of the massive turnout mustered along the highway leading to the cosmopolitan settlement. It was a sea of human solidarity expressing political support at such a crucial moment in the nation's political process, and the man behind it is not using the tour for political expediency, but simply to draw attention to the fundamental objectives of his government's development drive. The youth, who constitutes a significant percent of the country's population, have continued to be at the center of discussions. For a government that has invested heavily in their empowerment, the youth response, especially in the acquisition of the crucial life skills necessary to offset our limits in the informal sector, leaves little to be desired. And the thrust of the President's message in meetings preceding this one in Birkama, as well as his statement during commemorations marking the 17th anniversary of the July 22nd revolution, only points to the importance of youth participation in nation building. The Gambian leader has renewed time and time again that the need for frontline action in the agricultural sector is a necessity for our survival as an independent and sovereign nation. There is just no threat greater to our existence as an independent country than food insecurity. The President has told Gambians in the various meetings held across the country in the language they understand. He pledged to bring Birkama to the standard befitting its status, announcing major projects for the area, including the construction of a major health facility by 2012 and the upgrading of several road networks running through the cosmopolitan settlement. The Gambian leader was, however, quick to isolate the projects from any political enticement, noting the political U-turn of majority in the town, as clearly manifested in the welcome ceremony, has indeed touched his heart. Speakers from the local side have earlier took the floor to identify themselves with the revolution, which they agreed was staged to save them from a bleak history. Most of them cited the situation as near appalling, when they had to join long queues to buy water in spite of the political prominence Birkama has had at the time. They included Alhaji Jammeh Touré from the Council of Elders, Sifai Haidara, a lady councillor, Honorable Abdou Jaju, and Sefo Alhaji Dembo Keleng Bojang. There were also defections from the opposition UDP to the ruling APRC. Maimuna Dabo, one of the defectors, said their move was warranted by the current state of development ushered in by President Jammeh. In her words, they were in a state of darkness, but once the spell was lifted, they saw the need to declare their newfound gold. As for officials accompanying the President, the support manifested becomes more important if translated into votes come the November 24th polls. There is no room for complacency, Abdul Khalid, the Minister of Trade, told them, while calling on all registered voters to vote for the APRC en masse in the upcoming elections. Earlier in Sibarno, the Gambian leader had addressed a similar crowd with a similar message. But for a man who earned it the hard way, it is rather unfortunate that life struggle he and his contemporaries represented in Fonyi is now neglected. Nonetheless, he told the youth to find dignity in working for their parents and their country. The responsibility of nation building, according to the Gambian leader, should rest squarely on all heads, and should not be the mere taste of the women folk. At the meeting, the Minister of Interior, Usman Sonko, warned against efforts to incite unrest during the upcoming elections, calling on the people to be on their guard and to nurture the spirit of unity and cohesion. The minister also lamented the increased involvement of people in the West Coast region in the drug trade, which apart from the penalty of being caught, poses far greater threat to the future of the country's youth. A better option, he said, is to take up agriculture on a more serious note. But it is equally important for Gambian farmers to sell their produce to the identified national buyer, the GGC. The Minister of Fisheries and Water Resources, Lamin Kaba Bajo, announced talks are on the way to expand the rural water supply project to Sibar North and satellite villages. The idea, according to the Water Resources Minister, is not to restrict supply to street taps, but will afford the opportunity to those who can afford it to get their supplies in their own homes. Abdunjai, Grts.
In a flurry of engagements at State House on Wednesday, the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajahn Dr. Aissatou Seydi, met with Gambian ambassadors who have just concluded a week-long conclave on the country's foreign policy and government's priority development programs. Prior to that meeting, Ajahn Dr. Aissatou Seydi received in audience Clinton Etheridge, a veteran Peace Corps volunteer, who is in the Gambia with his family to chronicle his journey to the Gambia 40 years ago. Mamadou Jallo reports.
The first to call on the Vice President was Clinton Etheridge, a veteran Peace Corps volunteer who made history as the first African-American to serve in the Gambia from 1970 to 72. 4 decades later, he's back in the country to reminisce on his distinguished service and also help his children and grandchild to discover their roots with visits to Kunta Kinte Island and Gore.
I have come back with my family after 40 years to show them Gambia, the wonderful people, and all the development that's taken place in Gambia. And the minister and the vice president were kind enough to meet my family, my 2 sons and my daughter and my granddaughter. So 3 generations of black Americans are coming back to Gambia to renew our links and ties to the motherland, to Africa, and to Gambia in particular.
Mr. Etheridge joins the growing list of people in the diaspora eager to reconnect with Africa in order to rediscover their history. This journey will therefore afford him the opportunity to retell the story which he intends to publish in a book.
This is the opportunity to fulfill the dream that my wife and I had of coming back to the Gambia, and I was able to bring my children back to Gambia. So I'm very happy and very privileged and very honored to be here.
Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Her Excellency Ajahn Dr. Aissatou Seydi, thanked Mr. Etheridge and family for the visit, expressing the hope that it will serve as a link between African Americans in the diaspora and Gambians. The Vice President later met with Gambian ambassadors who have just concluded a week-long conclave where they discussed current national and global issues. The Dean of the Ambassadors, Jibril Juve, who is also Gambia's ambassador to Turkey, acknowledged the importance of such a meeting, which he said they briefed the Vice President on.
Coming here to Banjul to be brief, to be informed of the development policies, the new policies, the objectives of government in our development agenda will obviously enhance our work there. So it is very important because we deal with various countries and we have to sell the government programs to them. And coming to Banjul to be informed of what government wants, what government intends to do in the coming years will obviously enhance our work. So it is very important.
So hence the need to have a very close working relationship with the Immigration Department, for example, and the Minister of Interior, as well as the Directorate of Treasury, of course. Funding and resources are very important to our work, in facilitating our work. But over and above that, it also gives us the opportunity to interact with our own parent ministry. As you know, in any work situation, there must be challenges. So this also gave us the opportunity to review some of the policies of the ministry, not just of the government in general, but the ministry that is affecting the work of Gambian ambassadors and Gambian missions abroad.
The meeting with the Vice President marks the final official engagement of these Gambian ambassadors who would soon return to their various missions. But for some of them, it was yet another fruitful gathering.
Both the missions and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is our line ministry, have appreciated the need really to collaborate very closely, to coordinate our communications and